Hey everyone, this is definitely not an easy video to make. It's been on my mind for a while, since the Super Mario Galaxy movie came out, but I wanted to take enough time to properly, get my thoughts together before I make a video about it. I didn't just want to rush one out for the viewership because that's not really the right thing to do in this situation, especially for my thoughts and opinions about a movie like this. So I'm glad I've taken some time to really put the pieces together, and I'm just disappointed, really. This is such a huge, monumental thing that we have really turned around with a lot of video game movies as of recent. I mean, the Sonic movies have been getting more and more steady, popular. The first Mario movie wasn't even bad at all, so to see a movie like this come with such negative feedback and to be on the same boat truly breaks my heart, especially just for my connection to the franchise as a whole. If you haven't heard by now, the Super Mario Galaxy movie has not been getting positive feedback at all. Audience reviews have been, more liking to it, but definitely the general critical review has been very negative, and a lot more Nintendo fans that do make videos, I'd say, have been showing distaste for this, and I can't say it's not deserved. And with that in mind, I would love to share my opinions with you guys and just why this really hurts me so bad that the Super Mario Galaxy movie ended up the way it did and failed in so many areas. So the story for the Galaxy movie is, so it starts with Rosalina with her Lumas, and Bowser Jr. captures her, and she sends a messenger to Peach to basically ask for her to save them. And while she's out saving Rosalina, Mario and Luigi and their new pal Yoshi are supposed to basically protect the kingdom. And then once Bowser Jr. attacks the kingdom, they go to rescue Peach, and then they all meet up and have to save the world. That's basically a very short general conception of the movie. There's definitely a lot more to it, but that's like the basic idea you get like if you heard a general synopsis of the movie. And, when it sounds like that, you're like, okay, that's not a terrible idea for a movie. But when you start diving deep into what the problems are, and when you actually watch the movie, you can see a lot more of these problems. The first one I really wanted to start with problems was filler. Filler, I cannot believe how much was in this movie. Things that really drove the plot, or if there was something that drove the plot, it took way too long to get there. One of the strongest examples in my mind for filler was basically the dinosaur scene, or the Fossil Falls scene. For one, they make Fossil Falls a galaxy / a planet in this movie. And what happens is Bowser Jr. shoots at the team, and Mario and Luigi get turned into babies, and they crash on a planet. And before they can get back, they need to turn the Mario Bros into adults. And this is just padding time. Like, they crash on a planet, and then they have to be turned into adults. This does not drive the plot at all. And to me, it really just seems like this was put in here to make a Super Mario Odyssey reference and a Super Mario World 2 / Yoshi's Island reference. And that, in general, will get to a point we'll get to later. But filler was just really bad in this movie, especially in the second act. Another example is the wart scene. Peach and Toad get to Gateway Galaxy, and Toad's backpack is stolen, and they have to go rescue it. And they get taken to this whole huge area. They just keep chasing until they get to Wart. And then they have to fight off Wart's ninjas and other Super Mario Bros. 2 enemies to stop them, basically. And the only useful piece of information we get out of the scene is Wart telling them where to go to Space Junk Galaxy. Again, I'll get to that in a minute with using the Space Junk Galaxy. But this whole scene is a decent action scene. The action is pretty good in this movie, I'll give it that. But it just was not worth the time spent for the information we got. Now, I think it makes sense that Toad and Peach would have to stop one of Bowser's men or something like that, or Bowser Jr.'s, to find where it would be. But this was so long for that to be the only outcome, and it felt more like, here's Super Mario Bros. 2 enemies, here's Wart, I can't believe he's in a movie. Those are the two big ones. And, Mario and Luigi's montage of them saving the kingdom, that could maybe to an extent be seen as filler because, like, we know they're not going to stay in the kingdom. We know they're going to go after Peach. So them spending time on the kingdom just felt like a waste of time in the grand scheme of things. But at least how the story was going, that wasn't as much a filler. I would say that didn't really feel like it. The other two really do. It more just felt like useless because we already knew where the story was going. And speaking of useless, that really wants to take me to this next point. Useless characters. You might be surprised at how many characters truthfully felt useless in this movie or did not have enough story or did not have enough presence to feel important in this movie. Yoshi's is the biggest problem. Actually, he might, I don't know, all of the big three I'm thinking about are such big problems actually. But we'll start with Yoshi. Yoshi was the end credit character, and when you use the end credit character, that by extent means they should be a major character to the extent that they are a major plot point. And Yoshi is brought into this movie by, well, we see that his egg is in New York or Brooklyn, and he literally, his whole story is the egg, he pops out there, he spends some time in New York, and then he just has to run back to the kingdom. And, Mario and Luigi just let him tag along, and that's all he is after that. He's just a tag-along character, and really, the Fossil Falls scene, I think, was only there to, like, give Yoshi more screen time, and even then, since that part was just filler to the plot, Yoshi's presence there really didn't matter at all. And after that, like, he just feels like he doesn't really do much. Even in the final battle, he doesn't do much. Because he gets the blue fruit that just makes him to, the inflated Yoshi. And he just flies around and all of that. And then, like, at the very end, he does something. But it wasn't even, like, him actually doing it. It didn't really feel like, it just felt like it coincidentally happened for more of a joke. I think the best way to put it is they put him in this movie because he was the end credit character. Or they put him in this movie because he was important to the story. And, with Yoshi being the end credit character, I was so confident that the next movie was Super Mario World. And when they said it was Galaxy, I was a bit worried about that. I'm like, okay, so are we going to get, like, World and Galaxy kind of mixed in? And then we got what we got, which, I want to kind of go into that later. So it's kind of hard, with all these points, they kind of all connect. But Yoshi's inclusion was definitely the weirdest, but it definitely wasn't the biggest problem, I'd say. These next two, though, like, I think are bigger problems than Yoshi. Fox McCloud. This one is, like, for me, it definitely, like, it really annoys me. I think a lot of people, general Nintendo fans like it, general Nintendo fans. And obviously Star Fox fans love it because Star Fox has not been really getting any reps since, like, Starlink Battle for Atlas, if that's what it is. And yeah, I know that was a whole headache. So I understand that. But obviously, like, for me in general, it feels like this is more in to give, like, the Smash Bros fans that little glimmer of hope, especially. But the biggest problem I have with Fox, besides not being a Mario character, is he is so not needed for the plot. You could get any Mario character to be a pilot. You could get any Mario character to have a ship or anything like that. Where, again, it just feels like Fox is in here to be like, look, guys, it's a character you recognize. And, you may not want the movie to have a bunch of original characters, but at the same time, I would rather have an original Mario character over what feels like a forced reference and a forced cameo. And Fox isn't that important to the movie. He literally is the pilot that meets with Peach and Mario. Then when Peach and Toad, and then when Mario finds them, they all fly together. Then the plane crashes, and then he controls the Comet Observatory to get them to Space Junk Galaxy. Like, his role is so basic in the movie that it being Fox McCloud specifically feels so unimportant. Like, that's also where it could just be an original pilot, and then his role being so lesser, I would be like, okay, that's nice. Here's the thing, I'll give them that though it is a Fox, that it is a cameo and non-Mario character, he doesn't just take over and just be the main character. But also because he does so little, his cameo feels so worthless and feels forced. If you're gonna do a cameo like that, I feel like you gotta find the balance, and it was not met on either side. Alright, well, this is definitely the hardest character to talk about when it comes to useless. Rosalina. Rosalina it's just so... When you have a name of Super Mario Galaxy, and the most important new character in that game was in fact Rosalina. And in the game, she's always there controlling the observatory, guiding you on your way to an extent, watching over everything. And in this movie, she is just used as basically the drive of the plot. And, for a character like Rosalina to just be captured the whole time is so lame. And it's just more like she's not useless in the sense of like she doesn't do anything in the movie, because she is the driving force of the movie, so you kind of do need that driving force. But it just, to make Rosalina that character just really, really hurts. And of course, at the intro of the movie, it shows that she would have been extremely overpowered. And again, like one of my friends said, how she gets captured is a very in-character thing. When it comes to her character, they at least did her nice with her personality and such, but Rosalina is so important in Mario Galaxy, and I'm pretty sure she only gets about 10 minutes, and most of that time is just her being captured or after everything is all done. I think, her most prominent role is the intro, and then after that, it's just kind of mostly captured. That's, if I come to a Galaxy movie, I am going to be there for Rosalina, and she just was not there. And that really does break my heart. It really does. Characters was definitely where a lot of some of the worst decisions were made, but I definitely think one that hurts even more than that one is the lore changing. Now, everyone always talks about how, Mario doesn't have much of a story. Mario this, if you want the RPGs for story, sure, but, games usually don't. Mario Galaxy is one of the biggest exceptions, and it's mainly for Rosalina's storybook that gives the story of how she got to be in charge of the observatory and to be considered the mother to these Lumas. And, this movie decides to make Peach and Rosalina related, which has clearly been shown that Peach and Rosalina weren't related in the storybook. And even if that, you could even give the thing oh, maybe, they just don't fully explain it. Peach and Rosalina are on a planet at the beginning. And that just alone changes Rosalina's whole story from the very beginning before you even get into them being sisters. This movie really tries to give Peach a lot more lore to her character and stuff. I mean, these movies as a whole are just trying, in my opinion, too hard to make Peach oh, she's not just a damsel in distress, look at all this character and stuff. But I'm there for Mario and Luigi. You can give Peach more stuff to do, but I think it's trying a little too hard. Side note. But this big change in Rosalina's lore just really frustrates me. How it just kind of shows, in my opinion, how much they really did not care about Galaxy as a whole. This kind of goes with change of lore, but the inaccuracy to the title of the movie compared to the title of the game. Super Mario Galaxy is where Bowser comes in after, the Star Festival's happening. Bowser comes in, takes over Peach's castle, sends it into space, and sends Mario flying across the galaxy, where he meets the Luma and Rosalina. Then they head back to the observatory. Then Mario has to collect the Grand Stars, defeat Bowser's minions, and get to Peach before all hope is lost. And this movie just takes such a wild turn, especially with the capturing of Rosalina. That really just didn't set me right because of the story of plot of Galaxy. Before this movie even came out, I already was 99% positive that this movie was going to not go anywhere near what Galaxy's story was, because all the trailers, and you watch this movie, and it does not seem to care about the source material at all. It uses, we use space junk. It's nothing like that's Bowser's fortress. Like in the games, it's that Bowser's building his own new galaxy. Like we could have called the planet Bowser Land or Bowser Planet or something like that, but you use space junk, and it's not even like space junk, especially in that game, has such a the music alone makes space junk one of those that like sticks close to you. And Gateway Galaxy as well, because that's where you first meet Rosalina, and it's just like some airport basically. It didn't have to be 100% like the game, and I knew it wasn't going to be because Bowser was mini and captured, and you had characters like Yoshi who were going to be a more prominent role. It has bits and pieces, like the planet names it talked about, and there's one point where Bowser Jr. picks up the castle and sends it into space, but it's just for it to be dropped, and then for them to go to Honey Hive Galaxy, which, oh yeah, that's also in this movie, but it barely takes a prominent role, and it just makes the Queen Bee nothing like her character either. I mean, we don't even get to see the bee costume, which would have been so peak, but that's besides the point. It just clearly did not care about the source material as much as it should have. That we only have really 3 galaxy names, galaxy planets, and we have a few items from definitely Galaxy, like the red star was nice. That was definitely a good treat. And the ice flower does come in, and it is different from Galaxy, because Galaxy was like the first introduction to the ice flower. There is some Galaxy stuff in here, but when it comes to the story of Galaxy, it completely takes a 180. And not only that, with all the filler and stuff in the way, we don't get to fully even embrace what happens in Galaxy. I mean, if it really was that, you could even make it where they had to power up the Comet Observatory to travel to Bowser's Land and save Rosalina. Like, that could have and they had to travel to different planets, and then we could explore the planets. That would even be a better way for them to get to Fossil Falls and it not feel like just straight up filler. Like, they have to collect grand stars from certain planets, and it could just be grand stars instead, because having stars and all this, there really could have been a lot. There's just a lot of better ways it could have been done and to tell the story. And again, I wasn't expecting 100% accurate, because Yoshi was supposed to be a prominent character. Bowser was small, so he wasn't going to be there from the beginning. But just that stuff really just turns me the wrong way. And the biggest reason, especially, is because the Galaxy movie, it doesn't feel like a Galaxy movie, and it feels like it was called a Galaxy movie because people are going to look at a title like that and be like, oh my goodness, I know Mario Galaxy. That takes me to my second to last point, the people's connection to this game. Mario Galaxy is a big deal to Mario fans. And I mean, honestly, to a lot of people, this was released on the Wii, and I think everyone knows how popular the Wii was. It was one of the biggest consoles of all time. And there's the saying, just about everyone had a Wii. And I know a lot of my friends who don't even play Nintendo consoles anymore, or who aren't invested in Mario as a huge franchise as much as I am, or even the general public could be. And they know what Galaxy is, and they love that game. A lot of people know Galaxy. A lot of people love Galaxy. And to use a title like that, you know what you're doing. You know that you are drawing a lot of people in, even ones who aren't Mario fans. Because that's going to get more attention than a movie like Mario World. And it just felt like it was called Super Mario Galaxy just to draw more people in. Not because they cared about what the movie, what the game offered. Because if they really truly cared, I think they would have put more time into the Galaxy aspect, into the Galaxy story. They would have respected the lore of characters like Rosalina. And they just didn't. It really is just that case. This really is so if you have a game like Galaxy, you know that people are going to be coming to the movie to watch it. You know that you're going to get more people than ever. But they were more worried about the title, to me, in my opinion, than the movie itself. And it just hurts. And that takes me to my last point. My personal connection to this game. I think what makes this the hardest pill to swallow for me is what Super Mario Galaxy means to me in my life. You know, I knew about this game, and we've owned this game for years. I had only seen my brother beat it when I was like a little kid, and I remember crying at the end scene with the Lumas. That's all I really remember, but I never like actually played it. I never really took time to really dive deep into it. But then, you know, the pandemic hit in 2020, COVID hit, and we were all stuck indoors. So I was already a high schooler who really was, you know, dealing with a lot. And I mean, everyone was, you know, with COVID too. But I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to just play some Mario games again. And I decided to play Galaxy because I never had. And, you know, during, you know, COVID, a lot of people got depressed, and I knew I was. And when I tell you, this game changed me. The aesthetic, the music, the universe, the gameplay, it just all just made me so happy, and it made me really enjoy this Mario's world and the characters again. I remember why Mario was always so fun to me. It just good platforming, you know, fun little characters, awesome items, cool enemies, fun stars to collect, you know. It was never always intense about the lore, but, you know, reading Rosalina's storybook and learning about a character like that, it was just such a touching thing, and it was so powerful. And then you get to the ending, and I just remember why, even as a kid, that broke my heart. The sacrifice of the Lumas was such a beautiful thing and was so amazing. And you just, you know, you finish Galaxy and you just sit there and just like, man, that was just, what an experience. It got me back into the Mario franchise. It made me realize why I loved that franchise. And it helped me get out of really that COVID depression that was hitting a lot of people. And, you know, that game stuck with me for my entire life. You know, it's, you know, 26 now, so 6 years. That game has really spoken to my heart, and it's my favorite game of all time. And I know it's never going to change for what it did. I mean, I know that's just such a small story in the grand scheme of things for how many, you know, people could have had their lives affected by this game, and how many people can have great stories to tell because of this game. So when I see that title, Galaxy movie, I'm expecting something that gets me as emotionally connected as the game, and it just didn't. It just didn't at all. And it didn't even just like slightly miss the mark. It completely missed. It didn't even hit the board. And that just really hurts. It really is hard, because you just can't. Galaxy was the one you couldn't mess up. That was the one game that you cannot mess up, and they did. Like, how is that the game you mess up? Man. It really is a hard pill to swallow that we can't go back in time and make this a Mario World movie. We can't go back in time and pretend this movie doesn't exist. It existed, it happened, and it's not getting positive feedback, and I don't think it will have a turnaround. And that's really what hurts more than anything. So there's a few things I also want to talk about. For one, we gotta talk about the positives, because, you know, there is still good to this movie. As stated before, the action is really good. It is way better than the last movie. It basically did what the last movie did right and expanded upon it, and I give it credit for that. There's definitely a lot of good action in this movie, and you will enjoy that. And the music, again, the music was great last movie, same quality this time, and actually less licensed music, which is what people wanted, so thank you for that. I'm very happy they listened to the opinions there, which, you know, also makes me feel like the opinions of this movie will drive them for the next one. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi were a fun dynamic, and I think the characters were all well written in this movie, like the main ones. Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad are like the four main ones that are written. Or heroes, I guess, because they were all written well. Peach felt less like a girl boss than she did last movie, so that made me happy. Mario and Luigi's dynamic is so fun, and I'm so glad that we actually get them this whole movie, because that was one of the biggest negatives of the first movie, was the lack of Luigi. In this movie, we get a good chunk of him, and he's very fun, and still my favorite character. I know, shocking. And yeah, Toad felt to me less obnoxious than he did in the first movie, so I'm happy for that as well. Bowser Jr. as well, very well written. I enjoyed his character. Bowser, very funny. I didn't really enjoy the subplot of him like almost hating, not wanting to be a villain again, because I knew he was gonna go back to villainy. So like it should have just been he was faking the whole time, as I thought they were doing originally. But again, I guess that could have gone back into filler. But I guess that shows you how much of it there really was. Still, like, it was also a pretty funny movie. I knew I was laughing a couple times, so there is still some good in here. Though I don't think it's good enough to say that this movie was good. I don't think this is a good movie. I think it is alright and borderline bad. It's somewhere in that area. I would not call it good, and I wouldn't call it horrible. And the one big point I want to make before I close this video is some of the comments I've been seeing about this movie. Some people were like, oh, I'm just, it's a Nintendo movie. I'm just here to see Nintendo stuff happen. When I see characters like Wart or Fox, or when, it's not really story driven, it's just all these cool references, I'm okay. That is how we get lazy movies, is by saying, oh, I'm just here for the references. That's when they stop trying. They're just like, okay, let's look at this picture of Mario, and let's look at these items, and let's just throw all this stuff in here, and they'll be happy. That's basically just giving us eye candy instead of giving us an actual, story or good characters. It's just eye candy. We should, as humans, expect more than just to have colors basically thrown at our face and be fine with it. And the second big point is, it's a kids movie, so it doesn't matter. This is for kids. This one annoys me more because, for one, Nintendo knows that adults are going to watch this. Nintendo knows all ages are going to watch this. And this argument is bad too. Everyone knows all ages are going to watch this. So let's not use that as an excuse just for that alone. But also to put kids at such a low mental level that, oh, it's a kids movie, so we don't have to, care about the plot or write good characters or worry about anything like that. For one, they just released Galaxy and the storybook publicly, and a lot of people are going to be playing that game before watching this movie or after. And I know that kids are going to realize, these stories are different. This doesn't make sense. Why is the movie different from the game? You want to know why? Because I'm a teacher, and my students play games. And you know what? It helped too to make this because, I got to discuss with my students about this, and they agree with me on basically every point I've been making. Like, they said some of this stuff too, that why is it different from the games? This doesn't make sense. Rosalina's storybook is different from Rosalina being a sister to Peach, so why is this and that? So, from even just seeing kids talk about this movie, know that it doesn't make sense to them either. So they are competent enough to understand, for one, when it has a lackluster story. Two, when it's too different from the games, where it starts to just be confusing and not make sense. So, really, why are we putting kids at such a low level that they can't understand, that you think they don't need to understand these things, or that they don't deserve well-written stories, or well-written characters, or consistency, or accuracy? Like, show some respect. Like, just because they're kids doesn't mean we should disrespect them to that level. That, to me, is absolutely crazy to use as an excuse. And even recently, like Bluey, like that is especially made for kids. Like, that's for preschoolers, and it's still well written, and it still has good character moments, and has well written parents, well written kids. It's not just, oh, here's a bunch of bright colors, here's a bunch of loud noises. Like, it teaches them lessons, and it helps them grow as kids. Because if we think that, especially at the young impressionable minds kids are at, that they don't need actually well written stuff and need to learn lessons, then we're just undermining their value of young minds and their futures. We should not put kids at such a low level that we think a movie like this is okay for them because they're kids. A lot of venting. I honestly have to admit, I've definitely been a lot more peaceful than I thought I was going to be. But I think that also goes to show how much this one truly did disappoint me, that I'm more saddened than angered. And I hope that Illumination learns from this movie, and that Nintendo learns from this movie, that we're not going to just take lackluster plots, a bunch of references thrown in our face, and call it and say that we are happy with that. I think kids deserve better. I think Nintendo fans deserve better. I think Mario fans deserve better. And I think the Mario franchise especially deserved better than what it was given for its second outing of a movie.